Blake, have you ever had a moment where your wife looked at you with murder in her eyes and you didn't know if you would be breathing in another 30 seconds?
I see that every Thanksgiving when she's made all the deviled eggs and it's right before Thanksgiving's about to start and I start eating them against her will.
Welcome to the Church Gear Podcast, where we pull the tech director out of the booth and onto the stage to share the most outlandish stories and hidden wisdom from the tech trenches. And now, here are your hosts.
I'm your host, Blake Hodges, a man who loves Detroit deep dish over Chicago deep dish, and I'm here with my co-host, a man who I've seen eat an entire Chicago deep dish pizza himself, Toby Walters.
We're going to have to circle back to this pizza talk because you don't call Detroit-style deep dish.
Oh man, I have a feeling I'm about to be filleted like a fish on a deep dish pizza by the end of this.
There is a 98% chance you're getting fired on this episode.
Well, honestly, that's better than the 100% of every day at Church Gear, so I'll take it.
Okay, let's talk about murder in our wives' eyes. We're both married. We both understand there are certain moments where we think something is a good idea, and our wives look at us like, I'll kill you.
Oh, that's like me every day.
So I gotta, give a little bit of the backstory. Anybody that knows my story, I was a worship leader, Christian artist for a long time. And as I like to say, I was too short and too good looking to be Crowder, but I was too tall and too ugly to be Tomlin. So it just didn't really translate to, being the next great worship artist. So I was at a church in Texas, and my band and I were the house band. And Blake, I don't know if you know this, but sometimes things go badly on church staffs.
No, never. I've never heard of any church staff ever having any beef ever.
So things sort of fell apart at this church on the church staff, and my band and I were kind of, what do you call it? Just leftover bodies.
Oh, you were casualties of war.
Collateral damage. Casualties of war. Perfect. So it was very much a moment of, what am I going to do next with my life? So I really felt like God was calling me to music ministry, but I didn't know where. I thought, he had great things for me, and there was some amazing opportunity on the horizon. So one day I get an email from one of the largest churches in America.
Oh, nice. So Joel Osteen's calling you?
It was not Osteen this time.
Okay.
It was Willow Creek. And Willow Creek wanted me to interview for a position of worship pastor at one of their campuses. And I thought, well, this is it. Obviously, this is the next thing that God has in store. So got an interview scheduled with their HR department and was kind of waiting for the day. And so one day my phone rings and I answer it, and it's the HR person at Willow Creek wanting to do the interview. And Blake, have you heard the story? Have I ever told the story to you before?
I don't think you have, because
do you want to take a guess where I was at that moment when Willow Creek called?
Well, I'm going to guess you're at a taco shop because that's where you spend most of your time if it's not in the office.
You would think it was a taco shop. Being from San Diego, tacos are my thing. Now, my wife and I are both from San Diego, so also warm weather is our thing. Which, do you know where Willow Creek is, Blake?
It's in the cold tundras of Chicago.
Yes, the cold tundras of Chicago. So I received this call from Willow Creek HR from the cold tundras of Chicago asking me if I want to interview for this job and move, ideally my wife, because I'd like to live in the same house as my wife, to the cold tundras of Chicago. And where I was at that very moment, Blake, was in the delivery room.
Oh, wow.
My wife was literally in labor in the delivery room, and I'm taking a call from the cold tundras of Chicago talking about moving our family there.
And she's not going to move there and keep you warm at night, I'm going to guess.
And
I also hope you were pitching her this job change while she's in labor.
Obviously. I mean, she did take the needle, epidural. There it is. So, she looks over at me with straight up murder in her eyes. I think she even
this is mid-birth.
Women become otherworldly creatures during birth, but the prospect of being moved to the cold tundras of Chicago, I'm pretty sure she turned into the demon spawn from Ghostbusters and I'll kill you
if you move us to Chicago.
Yeah.
You know what's even better? You should have asked her, would you rather do this whole pregnancy thing or move to Chicago? Because it sounds like she would have rather continue, the pains of pregnancy than even the thought of moving to the cold weather.
I'm pretty sure she thought the cold weather would be much more painful.
Oh, goodness. Well, I can't say I disagree. Cold weather is pretty bad on my bones as well. Well, I'm here with someone who is much tougher than Toby and I because his bones are able to take the cold weather of Chicago. I'm here with Todd Elliott, who is a writer, speaker, technical artist in the local church, and founder of FILO. Todd, welcome to the podcast, man.
Hey, thanks for having me on. Good to be here.
Todd, have you ever pitched your wife a job change mid-pregnancy?
That's a new one. I have not done that, but I have to say maybe something similar to our stories that when I told my wife, hey, I think there's something up with this church in Chicago, her first response was, well, we're not moving to Chicago.
How'd that work out for her?
Yeah, how did you convince her then?
Good to know.
There's two stories here. One definitely never moved to Chicago. One did. How'd you convince her?
Yeah, I don't think it was me doing the convincing. I think we just, not to over-spiritualize something, but yeah, it was like a spiritual experience of, what does God have for us? And if it were Chicago, would we still go? Like if God were calling us, if it was true, would we do it? And so.
And where were you?
I was in Detroit, so not similar weather.
You're
so
just
it wasn't
going
a weather
across the lake.
Yeah, but it wasn't a weather decision like in your situation. But
was it a
anyway,
pizza decision?
A pizza decision for sure.
Detroit
it was actually
deep dish.
Yeah, not deep dish.
Come on, Blake.
And actually, I have to say, Detroit style pizza is like a new. That's new. That's a new phrase. We just called it pizza when we were in Detroit. It was not Detroit style. It was just pizza.
So then what is the, give me the dish. Like what's the,
I think Detroit is like rectangularly shaped, right?
It's square. Yeah, it's rectangular. It's in a pan.
And
so
it's certainly thicker than New York style.
And superior than all others.
For sure. Yeah. It's a particular kind of crust. It's a unique style of cheese, pepperonis. Yeah. It's a little caramelization of the cheese around the edges.
So I'm going to guess, is Chicago your favorite, or do you like Detroit? Because you've lived in both.
Yeah. So I feel like people who live in Chicago eat Chicago style pizza when guests come into town. It's not something that you're always eating, but if somebody's visiting from out of town, you go get Chicago style pizza.
Well, you'd be like 400 pounds if you were eating it all the time.
That's no joke. Yeah, it's very tasty, but I think I would either go thin crust or Detroit style.
My man,
Chicago.
Yeah, but Blake, you called Jets Pizza like the greatest Detroit style. Are you familiar with Jets Pizza?
God, yes. Yes,
that's like saying Little Caesars is the best New York style pizza out there.
Right. Oh gosh. Yeah. So if you want real Detroit style pizza, I'll give you my recommendation. You won't be able to get it anywhere except for in Troy, Michigan, which is where I was living and working. Buscemi's.
Okay.
It's like a convenience store, but they make pizza there, and it's the best.
See, I'm just a trash panda, Todd. I'll eat anything, and so if Jets is already, making the angels sing, I can't wait to try your recommendation.
Right. I don't know how you'll get it, but
no one's ever said that Jets pizzas make an angel sing.
Well, you heard it here first, folks, from the uncultured swine himself. All right, Todd, I'm stoked to get into your truths and a lie.
Okay.
True story. Your like truths and lies. I've copy pasted that. I took the name off, and that is what I send to all podcast guests now that we've been booking as an example, because it's great.
Okay, good. And I'm assuming you couldn't tell which one was the lie in the bunch.
I haven't, and
we're gonna find out.
Yeah, I intentionally don't look at these, which also leads to mispronunciation a lot of times. So hopefully that won't happen. But
mispronunciation.
You know what?
You just mispronounced. Mispronunciation.
That was a little meta right there.
Too much Jets Pizza, I would say.
Yeah, I've got the pizza hangover here. All right, so we're going to do, there's 5 of them. So the first one is, I was held at gunpoint walking home from school.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, I used to play basketball with the offense of the Detroit Lions football team.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Number 3, I tackled the CEO of General Motors at a football game. I wonder if it was when he was with the Detroit football team. Number 4, I went to Auburn University and majored in electrical engineering. That has to be one of the true ones.
It doesn't have to be anything. Maybe he's throwing us off.
I'm locking that in as true. The fifth one, I once dressed up like Mozart and played a harpsichord on stage.
A harpsichord.
That is,
Yes.
Is that
the
right?
way to say
Yes.
that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There's no pause in there, but
Holy Spirit activate. All right.
okay. Well, number 1, held at gunpoint walking home from school. I think Blake is going to say that's true because when we asked him to go to Detroit on a gear run, he was like, "Nope, not going to die, not going to get murdered today."
My MO is, survival. And so I'm just like, how
Sure,
would I go
right.
to Detroit?
And we were
Right.
asking him to go to Portable Church.
Oh, right.
If
Which
you
is
know
not
those-
Detroit. Yeah.
It's like, come on.
I'm very familiar with the portable church.
Yeah.
Yeah. And hey, we love Portable Church or church gear. It's just that, Detroit, when you watch a lot of TV and movies, it doesn't get a good rap. So
There are some bad places. Yes. Turns out on the way home from school might have been one of them.
Might have been.
I'm really hoping that's true. So I'm going
So-
to just say it's true.
I'm going to say the lie is that he tackled the CEO of General Motors at a football game.
Mm-hmm.
Darn it. All right. I should have got out ahead of it because I'm going to end up agreeing with him here. Yes. We're locking that in. What's the lie, Todd?
Riding my coattails, Blake.
That's
The lie is I did not major in electrical engineering at Auburn
Oh.
University.
See?
now I'm
Blake,
double
in-
wrong. I was
I
so
know,
confident.
right.
Where did you major in?
Industrial engineering.
How'd that work
So
out for
just
you?
a very slight lie. Actually, honestly, when I graduated, it was 1992, and so the job market was a little bit sketchy back then. Like it's hard to find a job, and so I had a very small graduating class, and I was the only one in my class with a job. It was at a church doing production-y type stuff, but we were a portable church, and so it was like a story problem for industrial engineers. How do you set up gear the fastest, most efficient way possible with people who have no idea what they're doing, and then put it all away as fast as you can and repeat? So yeah,
So
I used my major doing portable church.
I think you're the first church production director we've ever had on the show that says they used their major in college to serve them in production.
Yeah.
Usually they say, well, I dropped out of college because I just wanted to do production.
Right. It was my backup plan to, if this whole church thing doesn't work out, then I'm going to go, I got this degree and fall back.
So Blake, we're going to have to I want the story on every one of these truths.
Sure,
but,
yeah.
we need to pick and choose
yeah,
here.
give me
so-
the gun point. I got to hear that.
So it turned out it was not a real gun. But I, as a kindergartner walking home from school, you don't really know the difference. So
what?
it was like older elementary age kids, or maybe they were high schoolers. And one of the other, I guess, great moments of that experience was my best friend ran. He got out of there and left me to die, at the hands of these high school kids. But then when they figured out that I was having a meltdown that I wouldn't see tomorrow,
It wasn't fun anymore.
Bro, we're just kidding.
So in your best friend's defense, you lived to tell the story.
That's true. Yeah.
And I'm going to
And
guess
we were still friends.
Okay.
I'm going to guess because I also still have the same best friend since kindergarten myself. I'm going to assume his defense was, you should have ran with me. Why weren't you running with me, Todd?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. He was definitely a faster runner than me. So, and maybe I should have said, I sacrificed myself so you could get away.
You should.
Mm.
That's how I would spin
Yeah.
that story if I was you.
I'm going to change the story now. Yeah. That's be how I tell it.
Okay. So I want to hear about the CEO.
Yeah.
Like-
So he was, my dad worked for General Motors, and my dad had a very negative view of his boss's 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 boss, or, however that.
Same. I have the
worked out.
same feeling about my boss.
Yeah,
I just don't
yeah.
tell anyone.
Oh, what were we talking
Yeah.
about? You being fired on this episode?
I'm trying to get it over with early.
Anyway, so I was at a University of Michigan football game. I think we had just played Iowa. We beat them in the last second. That was kind of in the 80s when that was happening, every year, Michigan playing Iowa for, who's number one. Anyway, it was packed coming out of the stadium, and you're just shoulder to shoulder with people. And I tripped and landed on somebody, took them down with me. And I get up, and it's the CEO of General Motors, and he's a very short man. And I apologized, I guess, but I was like, my dad's gonna love this story later. But
Yeah. Did your dad give you an attaboy when you got home?
he did, I think so. Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. And sadly enough, it's not the only negative run-in that I had with the CEO of General Motors. There was another time we were in a boat and our engine had died, and it was in a river, so we're just like floating aimlessly down river trying to get the thing started. And this guy, which I can't believe I can't remember his name, came rolling by on his mahogany Chris Craft beautiful boat and just waved to us and just kept going.
Didn't help at all?
Didn't help at all. No.
Goodness.
Roger Smith.
Okay.
How dare you, Roger? So tell us about being the tech director at Willow Creek. You almost apparently could have worked with Toby had he taken that job and been one of the worship people. I mean, who knows the universe that created?
Could have been bros. Tell you about being the technical director at Willow Creek.
So when did you start at Willow?
Yeah, 2004.
Okay.
So I was at a church in the Detroit area, actually for about 11 years before making the jump to Willow. And what was it like? It was, so the church I came from in Michigan and Willow Creek, if there were such thing as online services back then,
right?
On the surface, it would look very similar. You could tune into either one. You're like, yeah, they're doing kind of the same thing. It was very at the time called seeker targeted ministry. So doing stuff that felt a little bit culturally relevant and matched whatever the message was. But then when I started at Willow Creek, a very different place than what I was used to. I mean, as you can imagine, just ginormous, just a huge organization. And so, trying to figure out how I fit in, maybe relearn some of my instincts as a tech person. Oh, we don't do that this way. We do it that way. Just stuff like that. But the experience of leading that team, the production team at Willow was, amazing group of people. The types of things we got to be a part of was amazing. I would say the thing that I realized is that a lot of the challenges I faced as a tech person at the church in Michigan before moving to Chicago, I felt that they were just unique to my situation. It's like, I have a kind of a tense relationship with my music director, but that's just me here. Or, I have a hard time getting volunteers to commit, but that's probably just my issue here. And then when I went to Willow Creek, they have the exact same issues. And I thought, if we have the same problems here at Willow Creek, it must be kind of a more universal issue that being a production person in the local church is tough. It doesn't matter that it's Willow Creek. It's just a bigger place,
So that's when you started to really see, I'm guessing, like the underpinnings of this is how church techs are really treated and this is how they go unseen. And like, I'm guessing that's what really sparked you to say, I'm going to serve church techs since nobody's giving them any love.
Yeah. You know what? It actually happened when I was still in Michigan, that sort of that light bulb moment for me. As somebody so this is, again, I started in the early 90s. So a church tech person is not really a thing. It's like there's a handful of churches that have someone on staff doing production, but I was pretty alone as far as, especially in Detroit, like who can I go talk to? And so I just started making cold calls to big churches. Like I called information. So this is, again,
wait, Todd.
93.
Is information a church?
Blake, what's the number for information?
8675309.
Blake, information
Yes.
was 411. So you have 911 for emergency.
Oh, yeah. Give me the 411s. So this is like telephone
information.
Google.
Yes. So
Okay.
I just said, can I have the phone number to Saddleback Church? It's in California. I don't know exactly where. Willow Creek.
Saddleback, ironically.
Right. Yeah. So so I just, for my own self, started reaching out to all these, and then I would call the church. Do you have a tech person I could talk to? And so for some of them, I connected with people and would ask them my questions. Hey, how do you handle this? Or what do you do about that? And realized that either they had good answers or they had no answer. It was sort of like, we don't know how to do that either. So if you figure it out, let us know. And even that was kind of a revelation to me. It's like, oh man, I'm not alone. Nobody's figured out how to do this. So yeah, of course it's hard. So that sort of led me to in the Detroit area saying, hey, we should just gather people together and just share ideas and commiserate together and talk about what's up. And so I got a mailing list from somewhere and sent out postcards. Again, this is like, there was no email blast.
No, I love it. Yeah, make use of what you got. This is great.
Yeah. So I didn't know how many people would come, but 250 people came and wanted, tech people, all volunteers, from their church. And just like everybody was staring at me like, okay, give us the answers. What's up? I'm like, no. I want ideas from you. I need help. Like, this is not just about me and what I know. So so a lot of that was sort of born in those years at being in Michigan, and then just transitioned to my time at Willow Creek.
So would you say that was kind of the early, like the birth of the idea of FILO and how that's ended up?
For sure. Yep, for sure.
So tell us about FILO.
Yeah. So FILO stands for First In, Last Out, which is what most tech people feel, especially in the local church. They're the first ones there. They're the last ones to leave. They feel misunderstood, like nobody really gets what I do or spend my time doing. They're asking me for crazy stuff, and they don't really know what it's going to take. And so the event, the FILO conference, is really geared towards those people in the local church who are volunteering on staff, doing production work, and feel like, nobody gets them. And so the idea, at least in my the way I think about it, what I needed really as a tech person was I just wanted to be around people who got me and who could maybe answer my questions. Like, how do you do this thing? Or what's your secret for this? How you do lighting for this event or whatever, to be able to ask those questions. And then, just to be reminded that, hey, what I'm doing isn't crazy and it is important. And so, FILO is really about reminding this group of people all those things. And I feel like there's a event around every corner for every type of person you could imagine in the local church, but there really isn't too much out there for the person doing production. And so we gear everything to that audience because we are them. So.
And Church Gear is coming to FILO for the first time this year. We are a sponsor. What should we and everybody else either coming or thinking about coming be looking forward to this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm really excited about the content side of things. Our main session speakers, the plans we have for the main sessions. We got some really great breakout faculty also talking about all different kinds of areas of stuff that we're doing. These are all people that are doing the work of the local church, so they're, if they're talking about audio, they're doing it in the church. They're not just an expert. They're not just a manufacturer. They're not on tour necessarily, but they've done what we do every week. And so there's a lot to be learned there. Honestly, I'm just looking forward to being together with people, like large group setting. I mean, there's nothing that's quite like a worship service where, production's predominantly male. So like to hear a room full of dudes singing full voice is pretty spectacular. And they don't normally get to do that in their church. They're working. So
that's a good point.
This is a chance for them just to receive, to be a normal person, sit back and just take it all in. And you don't have to worry about anything.
So it's held at Willow Creek, like in the main campus, right?
Correct. Yep.
So does it ever feel like a pilgrimage to these guys to come to the main campus, see the setup, and be like, one day we're going to graduate from our X32 to, what are they running, SSL or Digico Quantum or something?
Yamaha SD10 or what? I don't know what.
PM10.
That's not PM10. Thank you. Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, things. I used to say that coming to Willow Creek is like Disneyland for tech people. It's like to see something that's inspirational and, aspirational and, maybe someday I could be like that. I would say there's probably a lot of churches out there now with cooler stuff and, doing better production work or whatever. That's fine. But the thing I love about having it at Willow, there's a bunch of reasons why, but it is inspiring to go there and see, how production can be done. It also could be really depressing because most of us don't have facilities like that. And I would say, as somebody that came to Willow Creek conferences, I would be inspired for 5 seconds and then depressed for the rest of the time.
Yeah, reality would set in.
Yeah, and just like, I will never be able to do this at my church, but the reality is, what can I do at my church when I leave here? And so that's really the hope for people coming to FILO, is that, yeah, be inspired, maybe be a little depressed, but think about it in terms of, how can I use what I've learned, practically at my location? And I mean, the reality is that Willow Creek, where they are now, is a series of small steps of, we met in a movie theater, we had 4 par cans, we had a jerry-rigged sound system, and slowly over time, you grow and get better, and now it's what it is today. And so that was helpful for me to know that I don't have to get here tomorrow. I just have to make steps in that direction.
FILO, where inspiration and depression meet.
Yeah, that's right. Commingled. Yeah.
Speaking of some sadness, because there's some sad
You going
things.
back to Jets Pizza?
No.
Yeah.
That is only happiness. You have made, I'm the branding guy at Church Gear, and you have made a piece of content that I just am so envious of, and every time I see it, I'm probably feeling that same way that these tech directors are at Willow Creek. I'm inspired and I'm jealous.
Okay.
Your book, I Love Jesus, but I Hate Christmas. The title of that is amazing. It encapsulates the whole idea, and it's eye-catching. Most things are either you get it, or they're bland, or they're clickbaity, but there's no substance. You have got the perfect intersection of the two there. So we would love to hear your thoughts on that book, like the effects of Christmas and Easter on church texts.
Hopefully you don't reverse the order and say, I hate Jesus, but I love Christmas.
Yeah,
right. You got to be careful there.
Because I'm sure texts are working more, but we don't even know. They might be working substantially more in that time.
Sure. Yeah. It is, the title of that book is so fun, and there's a whole story behind where it came from. I borrowed it from somebody who coined it on my behalf back in early 2000s. But Christmas, there's a lot of Christmas and Easter. There's a lot of pressure that gets put on the local church that this is when people come to church, and so we can't screw this up. And so coming at it from that perspective, and then I was was working on some content yesterday, and the verse, never grow weary of doing good. Well, a tech person can turn that around and just be like, yeah, I'm not supposed to get tired, so just keep pushing forward. And so at Christmas and Easter, it's really good to just overextend ourselves, to get buried in the weeds of pulling off something ridiculous or ridiculously awesome. And yeah, it's real easy to lose sight of, this is a long game, that this is something we want to be doing. God designed the body of Christ to function not for the immediate, but for the long term, for our lives. And so, I just think I could think of a million times. It feels like when, at Christmas time, you're like, I don't want to ever do this again. I don't want to come to church again. I don't want to, it's just easy to get into that place because the hours are so long. And again, because a lot of people don't know what it takes, it can be very lonely. And so I always say that the way to have a really great experience at Christmas and Easter is to start right now, or the day after Christmas, the day after Easter, to start building a life that's sustainable, so that when you're at Christmas and Easter, you can, it is going to be a little bit of a push, but you've built in a system that you can survive it.
That's great. We hear so many texts talk about Christmas and Easter, and we get it, that you got 2 Super Bowls as a tech director, and those are the ones. And so to segue, but it works perfectly. One of our favorite things is to ask disaster stories. Sometime live production just went haywire, things fell apart, and everybody turns around, looks at you as the tech, and assumes it's your fault. And do you have one you can think of for us?
It's like I have a couple of near-death experiences.
Give those to us. Oh my gosh.
The disaster category. But I also have some like near misses, which are also pretty spectacular. But So the near-death one that I'm thinking of, so I was in Michigan. We were, the church that I was working at, we were getting ready for Christmas or, some big service. And so because we were using the high school theater, we didn't have lots of time to get up, set up for Christmas. And so I was in a big hurry. And if you're familiar with in a theater that has a fly loft, so you can fly things in and out and they get hidden, up in the ceiling. So we had to, we were going to load up one of these pipes with something for Christmas. And so I had to unload all this weight from the other side, the counterweight. And I had I realized after the fact, I really did not know what I was doing. And I was definitely not being safe I was just in a hurry. I was just trying to get it done. Well, I got all the weight off this pipe and undid the brake, and the weight of the pipe now outweighed the counterbalance. So it just came whizzing down at the speed of gravity. This, 75-foot long, 2-inch metal pipe. And a volunteer was walking upstage, and the pipe came like right down in front of his face.
Oh my
and
gosh.
Stopped right here. And he was like, we were all sort of like, oh my gosh, what just happened?
Were there any 4-letter words that came out of their mouth?
No, it was just silence, know, and so the beauty of the story is that guy, I don't live near him. Somehow I still bump into him from time to time. He reminds me of that moment.
Yeah. Remember
every
when you
time
almost killed me?
Remember that time you almost killed me?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So I learned a lot about how to add weight and take away weight from a counterbalanced fly system after that day.
Yeah, it reminds me of every tech out there listening, like hire a rigger. Rigging is a special skill and needs to be done right or people die.
Yeah. And I would say too, just don't be in a hurry. I mean, you just cannot do intense production work when you're running around with no time.
You know who said that? Caleb Lepke said, I tell people never run. I don't care what's happening. Do not run.
Yeah, I mean, running also sends a message of panic.
That's what it was too.
So, just, but you make mistakes. And so at Willow Creek, we have one of our production values is the no dying rule. So like before Christmas starts, you're like, all right, everybody just want to make sure we're clear. The no dying rule is still in effect.
We are not willing to trade anyone's lives.
We don't have that rule at Church Gear.
I was about to say, we've got 8 brand values. I think I'm about to have to cook up a 9th.
Nope, it's not on there.
Yeah. So maybe real quick, one of my other, the first disaster that I thought of was we were doing a conference at Willow Creek. I was the production manager for it. And, we'd done all these production meetings and we were finally in the event. And the producer who was sitting in the front row calls back. We're in the first worship set. And he's like, hey, just calling to see if we're all set with the props for the message that's about to happen. And I said, yep, you got it. No problem. And I hung up the phone. I'm like, I totally forgot about the props for this next session. So I was too super calm. Yep, we got it. And the prop required was a basketball scoreboard with a particular score on the scoreboard. So I had known we used to do basketball leagues at Willow Creek. And so I knew that we owned some somewhere, but I had never been in a room that had them. So I was like just guessing. So I ran. We're in we had 2 songs left in the worship set or something like that.
Oh my gosh.
I ran to the gym. I opened the room that I'd never been in. Fortunately, that's where they were. I plugged one in. I checked the score. I could carry it. I mean, it was pretty awkward. I went running back. People I'm passing, they're just like, oh, that doesn't look good. They were saying it out loud. Ooh.
How could they say that? You look like the beautiful Bob Saget. I've been like, that looks like Bob Saget
running
saving
with
the day.
Yeah. Anyway, so got it on a table backstage, plugged it in, got the scoreboard, and it walked it right out as the teacher, was walking on stage also. It was like the perfect, but yeah, nobody would have known that we
miracle worker right there.
Completely forgotten. Yeah.
You're
I'd like to say that's the only time that's ever happened, but it's happened 2 or 3 times, similar fashion. So
it sounds like you hit the shot clock with that basketball.
That's right.
Goal there.
So, Todd, give us a word of advice, word of wisdom, someone who's been there before about young guys considering a career in tech, now that you've given us these horrifying disaster stories and that you hate Christmas. So children that love Christmas, you might want to think twice, but here's words of wisdom from Todd.
Words of wisdom. I guess I would say this is just something that I've been working on in my own life right now, is that I did not consider, as a younger person doing production work, I never considered my own time to be something to weigh into the equation of, can we do this or not? I just sort of did. I didn't ask enough questions. I just would, in a way, sacrifice my own time for whatever the idea was. And I think the thing that I've learned over time is that for me to be an effective contributor, I've got to not be totally fried, which is where I find myself most of the time. And, I think too that I made a lot of assumptions that the people who were asking me to do these crazy things kind of knew what they were asking and that it was crazy and it was going to take a long time. And the reality is that nobody really knows when they're asking. And the reality is that's why I'm there, to do that thing, but to not be afraid to stick up for myself, to speak up, to ask questions, to push back. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's just an idea.
Yeah.
And doesn't have to be done.
Yeah, pastors are really good at having huge ideas, but really bad at understanding the manpower that it takes to pull those off.
Right. And so if I don't ask the questions, then we're just going to end up doing this thing that was just a good idea, just an idea, not like an imperative. And so, yeah, I guess that's my advice, to not be afraid to stick up for yourself, to consider your own life, and to ask questions and push back.
It kind of seems like you got to communicate and advocate. You got to communicate what the idea, like what this really means. Like, I know this is what you say you'd like, but let me tell you what that means. And then really advocate for yourself if it's not feasible. The thing I keep seeing in techs, it's real tragic, honestly. They're so giving, so determined, and such just like good people that they just figure it out, even to as you say, their own detriment. And I'm like, I just want to grab them by the shoulders and be like, hey, you're valuable too. Like, they're so good at throwing everything on their shoulders, but I'm like, don't do that forever. I saw, you might've posted this. Someone posted something over the weekend that said, if you're not telling your team what you need and you're just grinning and bearing it, you're not helping your team. And I was like, I wish every tech could hear that. Cause I almost wonder if they feel like even asking for help feels like complaining, but it's not.
Right. Yeah. It feels like you're letting the team down if you have to ask for help. And I think early on in my life as a tech person, my wife was pretty ticked off at the senior pastor for working me so hard. And so she went over after a service to kind of read him the riot act. And I can remember, I tell this story a lot. I remember I'm on stage wrapping a cable and I see this is about to happen. And I just turned around and faced up stage. I'm like, I just can't watch this. Whatever's about to happen, I can't watch it.
Yeah, he's going to be in trouble.
Right. Well, so he absorbed all of her, comments. And at the end of it, he said, you know what? No one's asking your husband to work this hard. If he needs to say no, he needs to be a man and say no.
Ooh.
And so that really changed my life. It made me unable to blame anyone else from that point on. Mm-hmm. But yeah, just like people don't know what they're asking, and you've got to feel great about, if I can't do it, I need to say no, or I need to, ask more questions, or if we did it this way, then it's doable, but the way you're asking is not. Yeah. So being a production person, no one really tells you. It's about communication and trust and people, and the gear is just like there.
So if you could go back in time to that moment where the road diverged into production world and take a different path, what'd you dream up being as a kid? Like Superman or a fireman
or Bob Saget stunt double?
Bob Saget, yes.
It's so funny. I don't think I would actually be good at this, but when I was a kid, I wasn't great at sports, but I wanted to participate. And so I ended up, in a kickball game or a softball, something or whatever, I would be the umpire. And I thought that would be really cool to be an umpire, professional umpire. I think I would be awful at it, frankly, now that I'm an adult. But
I think you're the first tech we've ever had that said he wasn't good at sports.
Well, notice he doesn't have to play the sports there. He just, orchestrates and keeps things in line and in order, which
Right.
sounds kind of consistent.
Or tackles the CEO apparently as well.
Right. Yeah.
Well, so Todd, we love to end all of our episodes on a tech takeaway. Now, I'm gonna be real straight with you. Yours has a lot more pressure because, you've got all these years in tech. So, this essentially is like, what advice do you feel like is Todd Elliott's advice? All techs, they've got standard practices. Everybody's learning a lot more. There's more resources available. But this is the thing that Todd found that like is really feels like yours. This is your piece of little wisdom that you love to share to techs on how to make their Sundays better.
I would say, so I saw this online today, and I think I'm going to say this is my thing that I wish I knew sooner. And it was like somebody else posted this, but it's be brave enough to suck at something new was the phrase. And I think as tech people, it's so easy. Our whole lives, revolve around being in control and controlling stuff and controlling the outcome and, making sure that I can, that it will work. And I think we miss out on the opportunity to learn new stuff, to try something, to be okay with it not being perfect. I think we also say no too often because we don't totally know how it's going to turn out, this idea. So if I say no, then I'm not, there's no risks. And so for me, just like be open to failure, not on purpose, but because you're trying something new or willing to take a risk. Yeah.
Is that a tech trend that you see in tech directors as they age? Do they suddenly, start off real experimental and they love doing anything and everything, and then there becomes a safety in knowledge, and then that safety, does it start to actually make their skills atrophy because they don't take in any new stuff?
Yeah.
Like, is that kind of a trend you see?
I don't know that it's an age thing. I think there are a couple, there's probably more than two kinds of tech people in the world, but there's sort of people that thrive on the creativity side of production. And so those are the people that are willing to take risks and try new things. And then I think there's some of us that are more in the, like, I know how this works. I'm going to figure it out. And then I'm just going to lock it down and then go figure something else out. And so I think if I lock it down, then I don't have to worry about messing it up. Like, this is how we do it. It works this way all the time. And so maybe it comes down to just being comfortable, like, I know this will work. So why would I take a chance at something new? So I don't know that it's an age thing. I think it's just maybe comfort level or how you're wired up.
Yeah. I say the age thing only as I'm 29. I start to feel myself even get more comfortable in my own marketing ways. I'm like, Instagram Reels. I was so good at Instagram posts. I don't want to learn that.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
That's a great tech takeaway. Well, Todd, what do you want to plug, man? You got so much going on.
Yeah, FILO conference, May 10th and 11th in the Chicagoland area at Willow Creek, South Barrington. You can also join us online with, something like 800 people from around the world. So that's one of my favorite parts about the FILO conference is now we have this international audience. And so, people watching, staying up all night in India to be a part of FILO. So you can go to philo.org, sign up for that. So that's our big thing that's coming up. We've been talking about it a little bit. I love Jesus, but I hate Christmas, the book. It's really designed to generate discussion on your team. So it's a great resource if you're looking for something for your production team to do together. The chapters are short. There are questions at the end of each one just to spur conversation. So there's no necessarily right answer, but just like, hey, let's talk about what is excellence versus perfection as an example. So you can go to Amazon and pick that up. If you want more than 10 copies, we sell them here on the website. So philo.org for that. I guess the other big thing that I would love to pump is we do this thing called FILO cohorts. So it's basically a small group of tech people who gather over 6 weeks, once a week for 6 weeks, and just talk about all kinds of stuff that we deal with, and leading volunteers, and what is excellence, saying no, how to communicate to your pastor, just all the all the challenges that we all face. And the thing that I love about it, I'm leading one right now, and there's 6 or 7 of us from all over the United States. One guy from Denmark has joined us. And, it's interesting. He's in charge of 5 campuses, one of which is in Sweden. So they speak a different language
Oh my
at one of their
gosh, wow.
campuses. So, but the fun part is we all kind of have the same challenges and issues to work through. And, just a safe place to feel known and understood. And so I know after the conference, we'll be starting another round of those. We even have one that's all female. Which
nice.
is one of my favorite. If production people as a whole feel misunderstood, I got to believe that female production people feel even more that way.
Have you
And
met
to have a
Samantha
place
Potter?
for them. I don't think so.
She's
no.
she's a install empress at Allen and Heath.
Okay.
She's a big tech person, and she's a female, and we had her on our show, most downloaded episode ever. So
Oh wow.
so that's great that
Okay.
you guys are doing that, fostering that
Yeah.
extensive, inclusive community. Well, Todd, man, we really appreciate you coming on. We'll link all that in the show notes, and
Cool.
we'll look forward to seeing you at FILO.
Yeah, I can't wait. It's coming up fast. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for being on.
Thanks for listening. And hey, congratulations on surviving Sunday. If you happen to make it through next Sunday as well, join us again for your weekly Tech Breather.
Blake, I love that quote that Todd said, be brave enough to suck at something new. So that makes me wonder, are you the bravest person I know?
Oh my gosh, Toby, I'm so glad you say that, because I didn't say it in the episode, but I was almost like, yeah, that's what I do all the time. All the time at Church Gear. I'll do it. I don't know what I'm doing. I'll do it.
But you know what you don't suck at, Blake?
Oh, is it podcasting?
Well, it's telling your friends about podcasting.
Oh, I'm really good at that. And if you were listening to this episode and you thought, you know what, I've got a friend who needs to hear this. I got a church tech buddy that needs to hear this encouragement, text it to him right now. Just copy that link out of the app and send him that link.
Tech yeah.
Tech yeah.